Welcome to the Suggestions Box series for Overwatch, where you guys leave suggestions for whether it's the base game, 6v6, 5v5, Stadium, whatever it is Overwatch related. I want to hear your ideas and see if I like them or dislike them, or if it needs a little bit more cooking in the chamber. First suggestion we have is about perks. My perk suggestion is that the system needs to be more standardized to be fairer across heroes. Currently, it feels like perks are kind of random when it comes to what part of a hero kit it impacts. I would like to have 3 levels of perks where players choose a weapon perk, an ability perk, and an ultimate perk at each level. I wouldn't mind this being an iteration for the distant future, because trying to learn and get used to 3 tiers of perks is a lot more difficult. Starting with the 2 tiers of perks we have now makes it easier to learn and get to grips with for now, but something that feels more standard in the future would be nice. I actually like this idea quite a bit. I think we mentioned this in the previous suggestions box, where as perks evolve, we can definitely add more to each hero, and having 3 would be a fantastic approach to go. I kind of like this, but what about like heroes, or what if there are perk ideas that are like outside of just abilities or ultimates or weapons, right? Could be an extra movement, it could be like something that unlocks that isn't tied to those 3 parameters. So sometimes it feels like standardized things are good, but then it kind of like bottlenecks you into an idea that has to relate to it versus kind of expanding beyond it. But again, this idea could still be iterated a bit. It doesn't have to be, you know, weapon, ability, and ultimate. It could be like movement based. It could be a perk that just straight up gives you like raw movement speed when, you know, XYZ parameter or condition is met. You know what I mean? I like the idea of where you're going. So for now, I do think 3 perks in the future is good. Maybe some sort of structure. It doesn't necessarily have to be these 3 that you listed, but I like it. Next suggestion is on healing received. Great idea. You could, I think this is in reference because I think in the previous suggestions box episode, I mentioned a healing received part of the scoreboard. So you can actually see which tank is literally feeding their brains out and is getting a lot of pocket healing and still bitching about not getting healed. In any case, their suggestion, great idea. You can also pair it with damage received to have a complete picture of what a specific player has going on to their face. Building on that, as an Ana player, I like to see on the healing boosted stat how much was boosted for each character. Have all of this be a toggle or a choice pre-game in the options. Agreed. This was again iterated on the previous suggestions box, where like you're allowed to, or where I suggested that I think Overwatch should have the scoreboard give you a toggle drop down menu on which stat you'd like to see. And if that's not really feasible, where like, you know, as a Mercy you can like, you know, switch your damage done stat to like specifically change that whole column to something you'd like to see. If anything, I want the post game area where if I go into like the replay or go to the scoreboard in the replay, at least give me like advanced stats so I can see things and analyze it. This idea isn't something that'll probably please the vast majority of players, but for those that it does please, I think it's a good addition to the game. So of course that means it's not going to be a high priority, but this could be something to be looked at. Next suggestion is, I wish they had items that you could buy in-game that reflected your endorsement level. It's nice to get a little bit of XP, but for all the ways we try to deter people from being jerks, if we did it more to encourage people to be awesome, like, for example, having a skin you could only get by being a good teammate, that would be really cool. I mean, I like this idea in theory. Unfortunately, the endorsement level thing is a little bit, it's not the greatest system to really showcase someone who's like a good member of the community and is not toxic, because endorsement levels are just simply farmed by like just pressing a button at the end of each match. They could have like, you know, been annoying to their team, but you're allowed to endorse enemy players and stuff like that. It ends up being just like a weird padded like participation badge, the endorsement stuff. I understand that if you get muted or you have like a strike against your account, your endorsement level gets like defaulted to like a low amount, like 1 or 2 or something like that. But I think the whole endorsement thing needs to be overhauled, and we need to find a different way to kind of like incentivize people to not be toxic. But it sucks that it has to come this way. Like, why couldn't the bare minimum just to be like a decent human online? Like, it feels weird, strange that we have to reward people for being good instead of being good being the default. You know what I mean? But I get where you're coming from. Okay, so I did a ball perk replacement suggestion in the last video, and here is my refreshed idea. Okay, let's see what you got here. Perk suggestions. Steamroller. It is, okay, let me look up what Steamroller does really quick. Okay, Steamroller. Before I read his suggestion on Steamroller, I'm going to reiterate what Steamroller does for the non-ball players who are listening to this video. This is the minor perk at level 2 where the fireball roll deals 100% more damage to tanks. When I say 100%, that means double damage. So instead of, I think, 60 damage, it does 120 damage to tanks. Okay, so Steamroller. It is good how it is after playing with it a few times, but making it ignore the knockback reduction passive on tanks along with the damage damage buff would be great for the skill expression and viability. For example, the ability to double boop tanks and more peel ability since you can boop dive tanks away, etc. Because right now Steamroller just boosts damage on tanks, but you're saying you want it to bypass the default knockback resistance that tanks have. I think this would be fun for the ball player, but it would make every other tank player miserable. And we all know that other tank players hate when they can't control their character, whether it's being hacked, stunned, CC'd, booped back, knocked back. If this was the case, you can constantly boop them around, and I think that's a little bit too powerful of a minor perk, so maybe not so much ignore the knockback reduction. You can maybe, if you really want to buff it in that aspect, you can maybe dilute the knockback reduction by like 10% only, but not like completely remove it from the other tank so that they can't play the game every time you get booped. So not sold on the Steamroller idea. Your next idea is the minor perk called Pack Rat. Which one's that one? That's his other minor perk. Right now, Pack Rat is health packs heal an additional 100 health. And his major perk, Hang Time, let me see this. Hang Time is the one where a pile driver winds up longer, but it gives you more air control and it deals 50% more damage. Okay, so that's his two perks. So his minor perk Pack Rat and his major perk Hang Time are very good against little CC comps. However, they fall off against more CC and Sombra and Hanzo since they hack health packs and have more time to punish a slow pile driver. My replacement idea for his terrible transfer efficiency perk caters towards his disruption / poke playstyle against CC. Oh, transfer efficiency is his other major perk, in which reactivating adaptive shield reduces its cooldown by 1.5 seconds per ally affected, and the transfer cost is reduced by 50%. Okay, not really a suggestion for the minor perks. You're just saying they kind of suck against specific matchups, but that's only like 2 or 3 matchups that make it annoying for ball. If anything, it feels like without those heroes, the Pack Rat and the other perks are still pretty solid against, like, you know, the other 41 heroes in the game. So realistically, I don't know if he needs tweaks in that aspect. Anyways, so your idea for his terrible transfer efficiency perk is something called Empowered Shields, where Wrecking Ball now gains a charge meter, which has a maximum of 10 to 15, and every boop gives it a charge of 1. So you have to boop 10 to 15 times. Okay, so once at full charge, Wrecking Ball's adaptive shields can be activated at any time, including during pile driver windup, and will now make him immune to all CC effects for 0.25 seconds. It will also ignore LOS, and it gives you shields for any enemy in range. This makes Ball play safe against CC heavy comps initially until he gets this super parry, which allows an aggressive dive later one while. It also raises skill ceiling as double boops and strafe boops become more valuable. Pairs well with Steamroller as boops are encouraged. Okay, I think Spylo a long time ago suggested the idea with like parries as part of Ball's kit to help make him a bit more viable, but I think Ball's actually received a lot of buffs, like micro buffs, across his base kit over the past couple of seasons. I don't even think he's that bad at all right now, but this idea is quite interesting. But then if you can build, like, I think you just have to look at the tempo. I know you say 10 to 15 charge. You'd have to look at the pacing of Ball and how often it, or how long on average it takes to get to that charge for an average Ball player. Could be a pretty good perk. It doesn't serve the majority of the community. It would serve the really sweaty top Ball mains who know how to double boop and can maximize it, but it wouldn't be great for your average player who literally is learning Ball and can't, you know, build up Fireball consistently to get a couple of boops. But you just boop through a clump and you can get 4 charges right away. I mean, it takes a while to get a level 3 perk. Honestly, I don't mind the idea as much as like I thought. When I first read it, I'm like, yeah, don't give him more things to counter his weaknesses. If anything, okay, let me backtrack here. The more I think about heroes like Ball and heroes that have very distinct weaknesses like CC, I don't actually think you want to add perks and stuff to the kit that makes him counter things that counter him. I think you want to accentuate his strengths rather than dilute his weaknesses, because then he becomes a bit too well-rounded. Does that make sense? And it's like, what can stop Ball at that point with all these like perks that completely remove his weakness? You know what I mean? I don't mind the idea of parry, but like it would have to be at a very, like the uptime has to be very short. But you know what I mean? Anyways, I digress. Let's move on here. The ideas aren't terrible here. Next suggestion, Widowmaker could have a Deadeye type mechanic on her snipe. So like Cassidy's Deadeye, his ultimate mechanic on her snipe to get a one shot. People are saying one of the things that sucks the worst about Widow is that she can just shoot you and there's no way for you to know that she was there. If she had to have some level of focus on you, not necessarily in her crosshair, but generally looking in your direction, The damage could ramp up quickly to the one-shot level damage. This way, if you saw her on a peak, you wouldn't immediately get domed, but the Widow would still have one-shot potential, which I think is important to prevent heal creep. Obviously not as slow as High Noon, but just something. Maybe can ramp to make the body shots stronger as compensation. I don't know, just spitballing. You mean specifically on a headshot, right? When you're saying you just like... as long as you're an LOS and the Deadeye starts building up damage, you're not talking about just getting a free body shot one shot, right? Okay, let's just make that clear. This is already kind of based onto her scope because you have to ramp up the damage in a sense. This just adds an extra layer of complication to it because like Widow still has to charge up. You know what I mean? I don't know, because if you have something like, okay, let's just say hypothetically, I thought this idea was what I was thinking earlier, where like you just stay in LOS and you get full crazy damage to make body shots stronger. What's stopping you from just throwing a Sigma shield up there and her just camping full AoE Deadeye, and then she sees people and now she's ramping up damage like crazy? What if she sees 3 people in her line of sight? Does she get like more ramp up? I don't know about this one, my guy. Let's move on. Next suggestion, Sombra Invis needs to be a cloaking effect that makes lights reflect off of her so that she's still harder to spot but not impossible. Okay, this reminds me of like Halo's camo, right? It's a little bit of a distortion in the light, but like you can still kind of see their figure if you're paying attention. I think that can make the infinite invis reasonable, and reverting TP to a deployable that takes 2 seconds on not shooting to return, that could make her better for those fighting her and those playing her. I don't actually hate this idea. I think maybe amplifying her stealth footsteps and maybe, yeah, making it kind of like a light distortion kind of effect. So like if you pay really close attention, you can see it. But all in all, if you do that though, obviously her damage coming out of stealth cannot be too lethal. I think one of the biggest frustrations against Sombra, I mentioned this in the hot takes video, is the idea of stealth giving you no time to react because she can do all her damage while like she can throw a virus in stealth. Yes, it kicks her out after, but the projectile's already out and it gives you no time to like turn and react for your average player, of course. If you're gonna give her like the distortion camo style of invisibility, I think if she gets kicked out of it, it could be a slow phase out, but like she just needs to be able to deal good damage, but like not fully in stealth. Because if I remember correctly in Halo 3, it's like if you shoot your gun at any time, like you come out of your camo and you can't go back in. Obviously that's the same instance for Sombra, but she could, like Halo is shooting a gun. In Overwatch, you can fire your virus or you can start hacking people in stealth. Maybe it's an idea, but like maybe you just don't let her do anything in stealth, but then compensate it by making other aspects of her kit better once she is out of stealth. Stealth should just be used to kind of like safely get into position, but I don't think she should be allowed to hack and like do all that stuff in stealth. You know what I mean? This is just me now spitballing in ways to kind of like make Sombra more okay to play against for your average player. Like right now in her current state, let me just make this clear. Like I don't really mind Sombra. I don't even think she's that good in this current state, but like the community complains about her nonstop, right? So I'm just trying to spitball here. As a Pharah main, I know Implosion is headed for a nerf, so here's my replacement, called Eardrum Rupture perk. Concussion Blast no longer deals knockback, but it now silences for 0.5 seconds. Does away with the brain dead easy team kill combo with Barrage, and instead lets us punish the Genji or Doom who think they can dive backlines with terrible positioning and get away with it. So the problem with this one is that the projectile is so fast, and it's like pretty hard to miss, and it has like an AoE splash. So like you hear a Queen's winding up her ult, it's a point and click, boop, and then you just completely remove that. A lot of effects get canceled. Sigma trying to do his like flux. Oh, fly in his face. You suck it, right? You fly in his face and boop. Then you hit him with the silence and then he loses his ultimate. I think silence is a little bit too strong of a suggestion, but like you can probably iterate a little bit with it and change Concussion's Blast's effect. I don't think it should be a silence. And if you're gonna nerf the Implosion, maybe just like reduce the knock or the suck in rather than like remove it completely. And I think we're at an okay spot. Last suggestion, if they're gonna use an announcer in Stadium, they should introduce different announcer voices into the game as purchasable/unlockable content. There's so many options in game like Athena, Aurora, Mandata, Ify, Baldric, Emily, Maximilian, and out of game, like imagine a collab with David Attenborough, Morgan Freeman, or Matt Berry, to name a few people with unique voices. That, I think, is a wasted opportunity. I agree, purchasable voice packs are like kind of things that other games have done. This is just something you'd have to bring, like we'd have to like pitch to, not me pitch, I don't really care, but like this is what Blizzard Corpo would have to pitch to, I guess, higher ups, because they're the ones in charge of allocating budget to like hire new voice stuff and create new business products, because this is what they call in business, they call it a product, right? You have to have a whole team to manage it and make sure things go smoothly if you're gonna sell a new product to your player base. I mean, I think the idea is fine. Other games have done it. I'm down for it, right? They should do creator voices. I know they're not going to, but I'm just throwing that out there. Do my voice. In an amazing play by Cassidy. Hopefully that's not too annoying long term. Hey, that's it for this week's suggestions. Thanks for listening, and add some more in the comments here. Peace.